one of the great directors of Hollywood is John Ford. John Ford, yes. So many classics. This man knew where to put his camera and let the action take place in that. One of Ford's masterpieces, She Wore a Yellow Ribbon, is being screened here at the Lone Pine Film Festival. And we're here to talk about it and two other Ford films, Rio Grande and Fort Apache, that make up what we call Ford's Cavalry Trilogy. The author of a book on John Ford's Cavalry Trilogy films is here with us. I'd like to bring out the author and award-winning makeup artist, Michael Blake.
Hey, Rob.
Either one you want, pal. Now, the son of the man who made these three films with John Ford, this is a man who shot a terrific film out here in Lone Pine called An Eye for an Eye. You might ask him about it, what he thought about it, how he saw all of these great monuments. He won't remember. You know why? He played a blind man in that movie. He never opened his eyes. So we have him here now, and he's going to be able to see the Alabama hills, as you all will too. And I'm talking about the great man, my friend, your friend, Patrick Wayne. Give him a big hand.
Where'd everybody go?
Good for you? All right, I'm going to turn this mic off.
Thanks for the comfortable seats. These look great.
Well, we'll try to replace them tomorrow. Well, boys, welcome.
I think you should put it up here, up close.
Hold it up close.
There you go.
Oh my gosh. Okay, you guys can remember that?
Yes, sir.
Give them a big hand again for that, okay? Well, gentlemen, I'm so glad you're here because this movie is spectacular. And I love all three of the trilogies. Now, Michael, what do you think about the color in Monument Valley? Did he actually capture it, or was it enhanced?
Well, it was slightly enhanced because he had studied Remington paintings, mainly for the way the cavalry officers dress. If you look at some of the cavalry paintings by Remington, you'll notice the hats are very similar to what we see in the film. The color palette, he took more from Charlie Russell. Because Remington's was not very rich and vibrant. It was kind of muted, and Russell's really jumps out at you. So that's where he took the two of them as his inspiration. And when he did Searchers, he went back to Russell's color palette as well to give him the idea for Searchers.
In tonight's film, She Wore a Yellow Ribbon, it's loaded with a spectacular cast of the people that we know from the John Ford Stock Company.
John Wayne, Joanne Drew, John Agar, Ben Johnson, Harry Carey Jr., and Victor McLaughlin.
How did some of those people get cast? What was this casting system like?
He never did a screen test on anybody. Joanne Drew, he had seen her in Red River, so he knew she could do it. And Harry Carey Jr. told me that when it came time, you got word that Ford's going to do a movie, you went to his office and you sat down and you talked. You said nothing about the role. And if he had something for you, he'd finally say, all right, I'm going to cast you. You're going to play this young lieutenant, da-da-da-da-da. Now, when it came to directing the actors, most of the time he knew what they could do. So he didn't tell them how to act.
I know all this is because of me.
Only the man who commands can be blamed. Rests on me.
With Harry Carey Jr.'s role, he needed help, and he turned to Arthur Shields, who plays the Irish doctor, who was a member of the Abbey Theater and the brother of Barry Fitzgerald. And he had Arthur coach Dobie, and he told Dobie, look, you don't get the girl, you don't get anything here. You're got to play this like an annoying little punk kid, rich kid. And Dobie said he totally turned me around because I was going to play him like a nice guy. So what you see Dobie playing came through with their shields. And Arthur also coached Big John Bigtree, who plays Pony That Walks. He coached him with his lines because the man couldn't read, so he'd feed him the lines.
We must stop this war, Pony That Walks. Too late, Nathan.
And he did a great little job in it.
The casting is, yes, Pat.
I was just going to comment when you say Ford didn't direct them. If you knew them, on Cheyenne Autumn, Ricardo Montalban worked for him. That was the first time that Ricardo worked for him. And he took, Ford did direct him.
Yeah.
And gave him line readings. And I mean, just really controlled everything he did. And Ricardo said, I hope he knows what he's talking about, because you do the role, you do 6 or 7 takes or 10 or 12 takes. And finally, you did it the way you wanted to, because these are going to keep doing it until you did it.
Right. Well, with his stock company people, he didn't have to. He had a shorthand with everybody, including the crew. The crew knew what he wanted. So he didn't go into great detail.
Well, he brought a lot of the same crew members always with him. He had an accordion player performing.
Danny Borzage was the oldest, longest member of the stock company. He started with Ford in 1924 on the Iron Horse. He and Jack Pennick, who is in the film as a sergeant, they're the 2 longest members of the Ford stock company. Danny was with Ford all the way up until 7 women.
Victor McLaughlin is wonderful in this too. And he's a bit of an overactor, a ham, but it fits his character. And the scenes between he and Duke are wonderful. You see the love and you see how they're protecting each other in this film. It's just terrific. Now, your dad was so good in this, playing an older man, that Ford was surprised, I guess, that he could do something so strong like that.
He was young at the time, too, by the way. You have to mention that. So what, you're 48, he was 41, playing a guy retiring from, cashiering out, 60s and 70s. And the makeup and the body language, he was amazing. He should have won an Academy Award for that.
And his headquarters, where he was, is actually Goulding's, that is still there. I've got a picture of my mom and I when we were there, when they were shooting The Searchers. And there's the 49 Ford in front of Goulding's, and it's my mom and I, and the building is pretty much the same as we see it in She Wore a Yellow Ribbon.
Yeah, it's the trading post served as the Ford headquarters. And then you had, like you say, it was the potato cellar. And now if you go and see it, they've got a sign on the door that says Captain Nathan Brittles, and you go inside, they actually recreated part of the first interior part of it, and they have some great behind-the-scene photos. And the restaurant that's there has been redone, but that's where the Sutler's store was built for the film. And interesting how Ford did this. You see those shots, and the camera is looking here, and here's the outpost and Wayne's cabin and that. And then they stop and they look as they see the stagecoach come in. And you think it's the same set. It's not. He had built the Ford set all the way up the road where the old visitor center used to be. And it's the same location where the cabin was later built for the Edwards cabin in Searchers that's set on fire. That's where it was. But by the way Ford flipped the camera around, you never knew.
Movie magic.
Same seat.
Yeah. No, it's beautifully done. And what's interesting is I don't think he had planned to do a trilogy because they're from different studios. It's RKO and then Republic for Rio Grande.
Here is romance, warm and daring. Here is a woman's torture, fighting for her boy, a soldier, before he is a man. Follow me! Here is adventure, starring John Wayne and Maureen O'Hara.
He only made Fort Apache because they were $500,000 in debt.
Fort Apache, last Western outpost. Here live the long, lean cavalrymen who fear no living soul.
They had formed Argosy Productions, and the first film, RKO agreed, look, if it makes money and is profitable, we'll give the okay for you to do The Quiet Man. Well, he goes off and he does The Fugitive. Beautifully shot film. Doris Del Rio never looked better. And it bombed at the box office. So they've suddenly found themselves with a $500,000 debt. So Ford turned around and did Fort Apache. And interestingly, Fort Apache, he originally wanted to shoot it in Technicolor, but because the budget was so tight, they couldn't do it. And when they finally went to RKO, it was because nobody else was offering Ford a deal. RKO had did a 5-picture deal with them. After Wagon Master, it was over. So they go to Republic, and again, Skinflint Herbert Yates said, all right, I want you to make me a black and white Western. If it makes money, I'll let you do The Quiet Man. So that's why, and Rio Grande had to be in black and white. It wasn't going to be in Technicolor. And of course, when Ford starts doing Quiet Man, he keeps getting these telegrams in Ireland from Yates saying, everything is so green. Why is that?
That's pretty bonnet you have on.
Bonnet? Don't you be talking to me about bonnets after leaving mine stuck up there like a...
Easy now. And the good manners not to hit the man until he's your husband.
I learned about John Ford and my love of John Ford from my dad. My first John Ford film was Cheyenne Autumn, when Dad took me to a roadshow presentation at the Pantages Theater on a Saturday afternoon. And Cavalry was great, Indians are great, but man alive, seeing Monument Valley for the first time in my life. The best scene in that movie that I like is when Richard Woodmark asks you why you're so mad about the Indians, and you say about that they had killed your father and all that, and you start to write off. And he calls you back and he said, I knew your father, and then rides off, and Ford holds on your reaction. That's one of my favorite scenes.
Thank you. Yeah.
And
I really did my own stunt. I fell off that horse. That was me.
You did?
I
did.
did.
They give you a stunt check?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Nice. It's a good one.
But so that's how I got involved with Ford.
Well, Patrick, on Cheyenne Autumn, because you were working with Ford back in Monument Valley, that was his last Western. Did you notice a difference in him from the earlier films where you had worked with Ford?
Yeah, I mean, he'd got some miles on him. He was frail. So all of those things were there, and the conditions were horrible. It was hot and dry and dusty. And these don't fare well with a person that's frail. We did scenes in Gunnison, Colorado in the winter. It was 40 below. It was like being in, I don't know where, North Pole. And so he suffered through all of that stuff. But, I somehow got through it.
What do you think, Michael, that attracted Ford to Monument Valley? Because nobody had claimed it like he did.
No. He saw the pictures from Harry Goulding, and like anybody that goes there, fell in love with it. He fell in love with the Navajos. I always feel he could relate to the Navajos. He saw them as the Irish were treated. You can't take a bad shot in Monument Valley. Just put the camera anywhere and it's going to look gorgeous. And he really knew Monument Valley well. He knew when the light was right, and he just knew the valley best.
I'm going to tell you a little story. So actually, they shot around Monument Valley before they actually went in there. And on some occasion, my dad and somebody else discovered Monument Valley, but they couldn't tell Ford about it. He had to discover, they had to figure out how they're going to couch this thing so he will discover it and then he'll use it. And that's how they did it. They involved Goulding from the Trading Post, and he discovered it, and then it went on to make it. You can take bad shots. I mean, Ford knows how to set a camera up to get the very best shots in the valley, and they are spectacular.
Yes.
Another little quick story. He's a director, but he is a cinematographer too. When we were working on The Quiet Man, we were in Ireland, and if you don't like the weather, wait 10 minutes and it'll be, if it's not raining, it will be raining. And he had to shoot a movie with this inclement weather all the time. And he's ready to roll the camera. I saw this. I was there 6 weeks. I saw this happen 3 or 4 times. He's ready to roll the cameraman, and the cinematographer goes, I protest. And he goes, roll the you-know-what camera. And the guy on the slate, he wrote under protest on 6 that I saw. Bang, 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 right? The cinematographer won an Academy Award. He was amazing. I mean, he's an amazing guy.
Michael, didn't that happen on She Wore a Yellow Ribbon that we're going to see tonight too, with the rain clouds coming in?
Well, according to Ford, yes, but the truth is they were out there and the storm started to come in and Ford said, okay, let's go home. And then he got an idea and he said, wait a minute, get everybody back on the horses. And he said to Winton Hope, the cinematographer, he said, what do you think? And he said, I don't know. Now, back in those days, the Technicolor film stock had to have a lot of light exposure for anything to register on film. So Ford told Hope, just open the camera aperture all the way and we'll see what happens. If it doesn't work, I'll take the blame. Well, years later, Ford said that Hope said he didn't like it and he wrote it under protest.
That's not true?
And it's not true. Of course, that's what Dobie Carey told me. And Hoke wound up winning the Oscar for that film for Best Cinematography. And what's interesting about Hoke, he never in his entire career shot anything in black and white. He only did Technicolor. He was one of the premier Technicolor.
Well, the Technicolor is spectacular. It's the first time Ford shot in color in Monument Valley. He had shot Fort Apache in black and white, and then also Rio Grande after that in black and white, and beautiful and stunning. And like Patrick said, he knew where to put the camera. The 3 trilogy films, were they all 3 financially successful?
Yes. And here's something to keep in mind when you watch She Wore a Yellow Ribbon. John Ford shot that in 31 days. And when you consider Ford's out in Monument Valley at that time, they had it was very remote, no paved roads. Everybody slept in tents, not a motel. He's got all these things going on with the Indians and the horses and all the action. And then they turn around and they go back to Hollywood to finish it in 31 days. He brought it in under schedule and under budget.
It's not just a bedroom, parlor, and bath. You are out there in the elements shooting action. It doesn't happen overnight. You can shoot the scenes quickly, but not the action.
No.
And not all those people moving around. There's no CGI. Those are all, wherever you see a person, that's a real person.
And great stunt guys in this, and I want to mention a couple of the guys, Terry Wilson and Frank McGrath, who are both in this. Now, later on, they became regulars on Wagon Train with Ward Bond. And there's a drinking game that this film could do. You guys don't know what it is, but I screened it again the other day and I went, what a cool thing. Frank McGrath, the little Charlie Wooster on Wagon Train, he's the trumpeter. I want you, as you're watching this, to count how many times he rears up his horse and take a shot each time. You won't be able to walk out the door. It's unbelievable.
I got a quick story about Ben Johnson. This was Ben's first big role. Okay, now, how did he become an actor? On Fort Apache, he was working as a stuntman. He doubled Henry Fonda in a couple of shots on horseback, and he was also a wrangler. And there's a scene in Fort Apache where John Agar and Victor McLaughlin and a couple other sergeants go to retrieve the dead bodies and rehook up the telegraph line. The Indians shoot at him. John Agar says, let's get the heck out of here. Agar and another man ride off this way, and then the wagon comes up. The camera changes, and it's looking this way. Here comes the wagon up a very narrow defile with rocks on either side, and it makes a sharp left turn. As it makes that left turn, you can see the left rear wheel lift up a little bit. Ford cuts, and it's another shot they did in Monument Valley with the wagon racing by. What you didn't see is that wagon went like this, flipped over. Post Parks, one of the best stage and wagon drivers in the world, lost the lines. The horses are running wild. Dead ahead is a sheer rock wall. And if the horses hit it, they're dead. and either the stuntmen are going to be seriously injured or dead. Just under the camera platform is a young fellow by the name of Ben Johnson. He's the outrider. Now, on every Western, we'd have these guys, at least two, sometimes more, depending. They would be the outriders. They'd be just out of line of camera. So like if a couple were riding a horse or driving a wagon and something went wrong, they'd go in and stop the horses. Ben sees what's going to happen, spurs the horse, races up to the left lead horse, stacks them up. They don't get hurt. They just stacked up. He saved their lives. Ford gets off the camera parallel and he says, Ben, you're going to be well rewarded for this. He thought, hey, I'll get some more stunt work. 3 days later, he's summoned to Ford's office at RKO Studios. He hands Ben a manila envelope that isn't sealed. He says, have your attorney look at this. Well, since it wasn't sealed, he opens it. It's a 5-year contract with Ford's company. He says, I go down to the bottom where it says they'll pay me $5,000 a month. He said, I grabbed that pen and signed it right away.
Don't need an attorney.
And that was the beginning of Ben Johnson, the actor. And he's the only actor in the motion picture business that won an Academy Award and a World's Championship rodeo buckle. And the horse you see tonight that Ben rides, and I call it poetry on horseback, that's the same horse Ben rode when he won the championship rodeo.
Well, he's being chased by the Indians riding that horse, too.
Right.
And there's that great glass shot, I guess, where he does the jump over the big chasm. How was that done?
It was never there. That you'll see as the shot is very wide, and that's what we would call a match shot. Now they do it on a computer. But what they would do is they'd take on the camera lens, they black out the bottom part. So when Ben jumps the horse, there was something that's in the blacked out part that forces the horse to jump. When it goes back and gets developed, it goes to an optical printer, and they have a match shot that's been painted to look like that, and they inserted the optical effect. They put it in, and that's how it was there. And there's 2 shots of that, when Ben jumps, and then when you see the Indians come up, that was all there, because there's no chasm like that in the valley.
So, Michael, you've won awards for makeup. What do you think of Duke's makeup in this? Did he look properly aged?
Oh, it's great.
Mm-hmm.
It's old school Hollywood makeup. Highlights and shadows, they grayed his hair. Duke's mustache was the same, and they just grayed it. You can have a great makeup, no matter what. But if there isn't an actor behind it to make it look real, forget it. And his father does. I agree. He should have gotten the Oscar for that.
I've read your book, and I just felt that the research you must have done took forever. You go so deep into the history and the making of those 3 movies. It's a fascinating book. And while I've seen all 3 of them multiple times, I'm ready to see them all again after reading your book.
Well, thank you. God bless Dan Ford, because he took all his grandfather's papers and started setting them aside. And they went to Lilly Library at Indiana University, and they had it. And I had been wanting to do the book for a couple of years, pushed it back because I had another book come up. And anyway, 2019, I started doing research. And then COVID came. Luckily, with Lilly Library, God bless them, they had everything digitalized. So I didn't have to wait, got everything. It was, I felt like Indiana Jones, because I found so much stuff and just dug more. And then Dan did these great interviews with your dad and a couple of stuntmen, and I found more stuff. So it was just, I can't say enough about Dan Ford preserving this stuff.
And the Lilly Library had all of the audio recordings from the interviews he had too?
Yes.
Wow.
They have all the interviews, and I had Patrick's father, couple of the stunt guys, Chuck Hayward, good Chuck, Terry Wilson, learned a lot from him. And it just was a plethora of material that was just waiting to be pulled out.
Now, Patrick, you read the book too.
I have no angst to grind. It's a compelling read, and honest to God, I would highly recommend it. Anybody interested in the Westerns, it's a real treat.
Thank you. That's the best review I could get.
Well, that's nice of you to say. It comes from the heart.
Thank you.
Now, Michael, your love of John Wayne and John Ford came from your father, didn't it?
Yeah. My dad had worked for Ford in the stage play What Price Glory that they did for the Purple Heart Association. And they had in the cast, you might have heard some of these people, Ward Bond, Pat O'Brien, Maureen O'Hara, Harry Carey Jr., Robert Armstrong, Gregory Peck, my dad, Wally Ford, and some guy named John Wayne was in it. Yeah, and they did it in several cities and made some money. And then the guy who was booking the things absconded with the money. But Ford put the money back. He put it out of his own pocket.
I want to thank you both for sharing your stories. It's great. And the book is marvelous, and you won't be able to put it down. It's going to make you want to see all these films. So thank you all, and thank you too.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching the show. I'm RJ Word. You already know my dad, Rob, because you were just watching an episode and you stuck around.
And you know what's interesting is I'm sure you see RJ's name in the credits all the time. Well, he and I now are going to do something together where you can see both of us instead of...
Well, actually...
You can't see either one of us.
You can't see either of us. It's a podcast.
But you'll hear him.
Exactly.
Podcast, it's new for me, but I'm excited about it. We're going to be having a lot of interviews with Western personalities like we've been doing for the past 11 years right here on A Word on Westerns. But now it's A Word on Westerns podcast.
You know, that's more than a third of my life. We've been doing this show for more than a third of my life.
He was in high school when we started at the Autry in 2013, and he used to skip class to come and work as a PA, and now he's bossing me around. Can you believe that?
He was a cool dad, and he takes instruction very well. I'm very proud of him. But our podcast is every Monday.
Every Monday a new one drops. Isn't it up all the time then, and you can access it anytime?
You can access it anytime wherever you find your podcasts or on our new channel, A Word on Westerns podcast.
Sounds good to me.
The links are... I'm going to put it over his face.
He did graduate, too.
Click here.